What day is today? What date? It's January 10th. And it's raining. You have a lot to be grateful for. Because it's raining on January 10th. It could be a lot worse. So we are grateful. Where's that young lady who wants praying for snow? It's creating a division in the church, I think. All right. By the way, where are we this morning, since we're talking? Where are we? Okay. Have you ever asked yourself, how did you get here? I have. What is a church? For some people, church is a place to find God. Some people, church is a sanctuary, a place to get away. Some people, church is a place to pray. Well, what kind of church is this? Let's consider Father's words. The ultimate goal is the love of God. We are forging ahead toward the world of the love of God. But first, we have to liberate the world and liberate God's sorrow. This is not just theory or logic. This is reality, and we are doing it now. But it's not going to be easy. Since you are already here and the die is cast, would you like to finish it? Don't ever think you just happened to be in the Unification Church. You were born for this destiny and ultimately have no other choice. Your parents were the instruments God used to give you birth while He was anticipating the time you could join this destiny. Being born in the right race was this person's destiny, and this black brother was destined to be born black. You cannot change these things. In exactly the same way, all of you were born to be Moonies. It's your destiny. Where have you been before? How did you get to this church? 11 o'clock, Sunday morning, January 10th, right here. How many places did you go? How many jobs and places did you live? Where have you been? And you ended up here. We ended up here together. But I'm glad to hear that it's my destiny to be here, because sometimes I wonder how I ended up in church at all. You have that feeling? But it's our destiny, our common destiny, to be in the church that will do what? Liberate the heart of God. We shouldn't even call this a church. We are in a movement to liberate the heart of God. So we're here. But now that we're here, and I'm sure you've all heard that idea before, liberate the heart of God, what exactly does it mean to liberate God's heart? I never heard this idea outside of this place. No one ever talks about this. But I wonder, what does it mean? Liberate God's heart. How can who am I to liberate God's heart? Who am I? Well, this morning's readings gave us some important clues on liberating the heart of God. This is very important. With the first, from Father's words, we have to initiate a movement which can demonstrate how we find our real dignity when we put ourselves on an equal level with God. You can't say that every place. I will put myself on an equal level with God. There are a lot of people that might take offense at that. Did Reverend Moon even really say that? It's not an idea to consider lightly. But let me ask you, is that Reverend Moon's idea? Didn't Jesus say, and you can look this up, Matthew 5:48, you, therefore, should be perfect, like God is perfect. Was that even Jesus' idea? Jesus liked to quote the Old Testament, and in the book of Leviticus, 11:44, it says, God tells the Jewish people, I am the Lord your God. Consecrate yourselves and be holy, because I am holy. That same line of thought. And if we go back to the very beginning of the Bible, if we go to the book of Genesis, didn't God say that God created man in his own image? Male and female, he created he them. So this idea is as old as any idea in human history. God has been talking about equality with people for a long time. God has been thinking about people finding our dignity, our human dignity, by being on an equal level with God. And what we've learned from Reverend Moon is that from God's viewpoint, nothing less than equality with God is human. By definition, to be human is to be godlike. Right? What is the definition of a human being in divine principle? Mind, body united, centered on God. So that idea is at the very heart of liberating. That's the meaning of liberating the heart of God. What happened when Adam and Eve fell? The results of the fall. Through the fallen action of Adam and Eve, no one has ever been able to call themselves equal to God. Through the fall, humanity lost godliness. Humanity lost perfection. Humanity lost holiness. What does the Bible say? In the book of Romans 3:10, there is no one righteous, not even one. There is no one who seeks God. All have turned away. They have together become worthless. All have turned away, become worthless. That's a heavy word. All human beings have become worthless from God's perspective. Because without holiness, without godliness, without perfection, humanity became trash. There was no one capable of being an object to God, of being equal to God. Since the fall, everyone has wounded God's heart. For all have sinned and fall short of the glory of God. These ideas are all in the Bible. Well, this means that God, Almighty God, is essentially alone in the universe. He has no object for his love. He has no one equal to share, give, and take with. And the greatest sorrow that you will experience, or I will experience, is not being able to have give and take with someone, with the one you love especially. When someone in your family dies, you're sad because there's no more give and take. It's over. Well, what about God? Nobody have give and take with at all. In that sense, God is a prisoner of love, his love. He has not been free to give his blessings to any individual, any family, any race, any nation, any culture, at any time. That's a very, very simple idea from true parents. But this clearly explains the tragedy that has been human history. This clearly explains why people behave the way they behave. Because every individual, every family, every race, every nation, every culture, everybody has not been God's image, but the corrupted image of fallen Adam and Eve. And the results of history have been terrible for us, for mankind. Not being like God is a terrible thing to do. So what is liberating the heart of God? How do we liberate the heart of God? On an individual level, we liberate the heart of God by making myself into someone whom God can love. Not being a sinner who has fallen short of God's glory. Not turning away from God, but seeking God's kingdom and his righteousness. Not being worthless. On the family level, liberating the heart of God means making my family a family that God can love. Not a family that falls short of the glory of God. Not a family that turns away from God and becomes worthless, but a family that seeks God's kingdom and his righteousness. Same on a society level, national level, worldwide level. Liberating the heart of God means freeing God to love us, making God free. So liberating the heart of God is bigger than church. It's bigger than governments. It's bigger than any human idea or institution. Think about this. When God is free, when God is liberated to love all men, and all men are alive in the love of God, will there be any social problems we cannot solve? You want to think about that? Will there be any society problems we can't solve? Relations between nations, between races, between cultures, when we are alive in God's love? All right. But do you watch the presidential debates? Anybody here watch the presidential debates? Like, nobody wants to admit it. I know, what is this? I watch a few. I can't watch because of my schedule, but I watch a few. Well, they have debates. They get asked questions. Are there any winners of these debates? Are there any answers to the problems that America faces in these debates? Are there any answers? Do you hear the solutions politically? Without liberating God, there'll be no solution to human problems. When I listen to political people and political solutions, I just want to read farther speeches because political solutions don't work. President Bush spent $10 billion in the war against drugs. Has the drug problem gone away? Reverend Moon said, give me 10% of that money, and I will educate the entire population of America to not want to use drugs. How? We educate people on how to be holy. We educate people how to be perfect. We educate people how to achieve their true dignity as human beings by putting themselves on an equal level with God. Does God need drugs? There's only one answer to all the problems that have plagued mankind throughout history. There's only one answer. We have to put ourselves on an equal level with God and find our true human dignity. Anybody here feel like that they should be perfect? Young men don't need to be shy. I always felt like I should be perfect. Everybody called me arrogant. I've been called arrogant a lot. But I always felt like I wanted to be perfect. Is this true that I always felt like, and I always thought I'm always right. I wouldn't have said it if I didn't mean it. I wouldn't have done it if it shouldn't have been done. I'm always right. Am I the only one like that? Well, judging by your silence, no. But when I heard divine principle, I saw my opportunity to be perfect Because actually Reverend Moon finally agreed with me. I found somebody to agree with me. I should be perfect. This is Father's speech. We conclude that man was created from the very beginning as man, and that God gave him a spiritual capacity plus a desire to be like God and reach God's standard. Why? The simple conclusion, divine principle is so simple. The simple conclusion is that God is our subject. From the very beginning, he created man to be his object, infusing him with his own unchanging qualities. We eternally remain as a mirror of God, and because God's qualities do not change, we also have no way to change. I guess I'll be arrogant forever, because I'll always think I should be perfect. But that Father said that is what? My destiny. That's my destiny. That's your destiny. You ended up in this church Sunday morning, January 10th, and you're destined to be here. You're destined to hear these words. We have to liberate God's heart by finding true human dignity, by putting ourselves on an equal level with God. Nice to say. How do you do that? Well, the nice thing about this book here, Divine Principle, this is not just theory. There's also an action plan in here. Half of Divine Principle is devoted to what we call the providence of restoration, the process to recreate man in the image of God, the process to recreate fallen men into the original image of God, which is our destiny, to infuse man with holiness. And in that providence of restoration, how does God work that process to infuse man with holiness? It's outlined in the Bible. The Bible gives us history of God's work. Divine Principle teaches us what? We have a foundation of faith, a foundation of substance. That's the process to become godlike. The Bible is full of so many unusual stories. The story of Abraham, Noah, story of Jacob and Esau, story of Moses. Many, many unusual stories. We know that these are people who are extraordinary people who are making a foundation of faith with God and then trying to make a foundation of substance also. So the pattern is there. First, you establish a foundation of faith. You show your love for God. Then, you let your faith infuse your being. You let your actions match your words. That's what the foundation of substance means. I said it and I did it. And I don't change it. First, we believe in and have faith in God. Then we become the substantial image of God. Well, we know that the foundation of faith is between man and God, and that's always been easier because I like God. Everybody likes God. And God likes everybody, which makes God, a little different than the rest of us. God likes everybody. So having a foundation, loving God, believing in God is easy. The foundation of substance has been difficult because the foundation of substance is between man and man. Believing in people and loving people, that's not so easy, right? Yes? That's not so easy. Because we know people don't love us and people don't believe in us either. It's difficult to lay a foundation of substance, to be godlike with other people. Even St. Paul gave us a little advice about the foundation of substance. I find this law at work. When I want to do good, evil is right there with me. For in my inner being I delight in God's law. But I see another law at work in the members of my body, waging war against the law of my mind. So not only do we have to overcome in relation to other people to make a foundation of substance, the foundation of substance is so difficult because we have to overcome ourselves. My body is actually the barrier to my becoming godlike. So liberating the heart of God is the final and greatest revolution that history will see. Because liberating the heart of God will bring in a new era of humanity, a new kind of people, a new era in human history. But it's a revolution. And are there any revolutions that are easy? Will there be a revolution fought with no shots being fired, with no bloodshed? Not this time either. Father warned us to reach this level, we would have to walk straight into hell. To reach heaven, we cannot avoid bearing more sorrow than other people. Jesus told us, narrow is the gate, straight is the way that leads to eternal life, and few are the people that go there. Because it's not easy. The most difficult thing to do is to turn your faith into your reality, to make yourself who you say you are. I know that. Anyone who's turning their faith into a foundation of substance is in for a fight with yourself. So what does the foundation of substance look like? That's what Jesus talked about. Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. Blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they will be filled. Blessed are the merciful, for they will be shown mercy. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they will see God. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called sons of God. Being merciful, being pure, being a peacemaker. Is that easy? Those things aren't easy. Nice ideas, but not so easy. Then God is looking for fighters with the guts to overcome their own fallen nature and become merciful, become pure, become meek, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. My father said I was born to join this church. Father said I was destined to be in this church. I was destined to become merciful. I was destined to become pure. I was destined to become meek. I was destined to hunger and thirst for righteousness. I was destined to inherit the kingdom of heaven. Lucky me. I was also destined to enter the narrow gate. I was destined to walk the straight and narrow. I was destined to fight the greatest war that can be fought within myself. The war of mind versus the body. Lucky me. Right? Because from God's viewpoint, if my destiny has to march through hell, what does it matter? It's still my destiny. Hell is temporary. My destiny is eternal. So, that's destiny. I was born for this. But you're here too. You're born for this. It's your destiny. We were destined to be here. We were destined to be elevated to an equal level with God. We were destined to find our real dignity as a human being. We were destined to liberate God's heart. You're lucky. Do you believe it? Well, that really convinced me. Yeah, well, you may believe it, but have you ever asked yourself, why me, God? Why did you choose me? If you haven't asked yourself, you haven't been awake. I have asked myself that. You have to be a little crazy to do this. You have to be a little crazy to be here. Alas, I found the answer to that divine principle also. In page 31, it says, when the body acts according to the will of the mind, that is mind and body united, when the body acts according to the will of the mind, the individual will live a purposeful life. This individual will then attract like-minded people. As these companions work together productively, the group will grow. Like-minded people. When Jesus began his ministry, he found like-minded people among fishermen and prostitutes. He found people who were like-minded with him among fishermen and prostitutes. Do you think Peter and James and Andrew were talking about saving the world the day before they met Jesus? No, they were talking about going to the bar, catching enough fish to go to the bar, do the things that fishermen do. But Jesus told his disciples, you did not choose me, but I chose you and appointed you to go and bear fruit that will last. When True Father began his ministry in Korea, he found like-minded people and college students and laborers, simple people, not the religious leaders or the political leaders. It doesn't matter where you begin, because those like-minded people will find other like-minded people, who will find other like-minded people, who will find other like-minded people, who will find you and me. Wherever you go to hide, they will find you. You'll find those like-minded people. Why? Because it's our destiny. The reason you are sitting in these seats right now is because you are like-minded. You may not have known you were like-minded, but you are. God knows you're like-minded. So God put you through your life, through your destiny, to bring you here with like-minded people. We were living in this fallen world, but somehow we were not part of the fallen world. Father said, none of us just happened to be here. Search your feelings, Luke. You know this to be true. Search your past. Somewhere, sometime, you must have done something good, because God knows you. He knows you're like-minded. I remember when I was, I don't know, 10, that age span, whatever, and I found this woman's purse in the Bronx. That's right, it was in the Bronx. I found a purse on the street. And of course, you go look for the money first, right? And inside was $200. Back in the early 60s, that would be equivalent to about $1,500 now. And I never had much money because we were so poor. I can honestly say I never had more than a quarter in my pocket. That's true. And I was standing with $200 in the purse. And I turned around, and I went to the police station, and I turned it in. So then the policeman called this lady. She comes down, and she's crying. Oh, my God. It was her rent money. It was her food money for the month. It was all this money. And she was so thankful. And she didn't even give me $1. Give me nothing. She didn't give me anything. That's a true story. But she was grateful. So I was walking home on Fremont Avenue, and I'm thinking, why did I do that? God, why am I like-minded? I didn't know I'm like-minded with God. Why did I do that? Search your feelings. Even no matter how young you are, I'm sure there's something there. I know you're like-minded because you're here, and it's your destiny. It's our destiny to elevate ourselves to God's level and find our true dignity. Some of you met your spiritual parent going to work. Don't ever think that was just an accident. God knew your way to work. God put you there, on the way there. Some of you may have lived close to a member. Don't ever think that member just happened to move close to you. God knows where you live. God sent somebody there for you. There are people here from my job. Don't ever think you just happened to come to work at True World Foods. God knew I was there. There's 10,000 companies to work for in New Jersey. God sent you to True World Foods because you're like-minded. God brought us here, and it is our destiny to elevate ourselves to God's level and find our true dignity as human beings. Do you accept your destiny? I don't even think God could hear that. Do you accept your destiny? Yes. Then God bless you. Thank you very much.